It's award season, so that means it's time to rank every movie I saw in 2025 from the worst to the best. I have 41 movies on this list. If you want to see a list of them in release order, check the description down below. Also, a few quick notes before we get into the ranking. One, because I don't do YouTube full time, I don't really have the time or the money to watch movies that I know are going to be awful. As a result, most of the absolute worst movies of the year, such as these, are not on this list. Even the movies at the very bottom of this list are still somewhat watchable. Maybe one day if I ever get lucky and am able to do this as a full-time job, I'll be able to squeeze some more movies in, but as of right now, even the absolute worst movies I saw this year are still at least somewhat watchable. Also, as per usual, there are a few movies from this past year that I wanted to see but simply did not find the time. Here they are. And lastly, because there are so many movies on this list, I'm only going to talk about each one of them for a few seconds. If you want to see my more in-depth thoughts on any of these movies, click this playlist right here. And as per usual, I will include some minor spoilers for each of these movies, but nothing too serious, nothing that will ruin your experience if you haven't watched some of them yet. Without further ado, let's get into the ranking. In last place is going to be Captain America: Brave New World. This movie was just a mess on a plot level. While I like the chemistry between Anthony Mackie and Danny Ramirez, the plot of this movie was all over the place, the themes were poorly defined, and Sam's character arc made no sense. At number 40 is going to be The Running Man. While I do like some of the production design for this movie was horribly paced, the universe wasn't explored well, and as much as I love Glenn Powell, the main character felt horribly miscast. Number 39 is going to be The Karate Kid Legends. This movie had some good ideas, but they were all very sloppily executed. There's 3 movies worth of plot here crammed into one. The dialogue is really stilted, and the character arcs felt very bare bone. The Secret Agent was a movie that I respected a lot more than I liked. While I really loved the way that it shot and acted, the plot was really confusing and there were way too many subplots. I think I would have liked this movie a lot more if I was more familiar with Brazilian culture and Brazilian history. As of right now though, this movie just kind of went over my head. Light of the World was just kind of a standard kids Christian movie. The animation was good and the songs were catchy and it did hit the right emotional beats, but it just didn't impact me the way other movies this year did. Number 36 is going to be Final Destination: Bloodlines. This is a movie that perfectly understood the assignment. It's the perfect Final Destination legacy sequel. There are a lot of great kill scenes, the opening premonition is perfect, and there are some good character moments. However, like most movies in this franchise, I did feel like the ending fell in on itself a bit, but it was still a ton of fun. Number 35 is going to be Shelby Oaks. This is a movie that I wanted to love so much, and I do think it shows a lot of promise from Chris Stuckmann as a director. There are a lot of good scares and tension, and I love the cinematography and the atmosphere. However, I had a hard time getting invested in the main plotline, and I thought the ending was very weak. Number 34 is going to be Mickey 17. While this movie features some interesting ideas and a fantastic dual performance from Robert Pattinson, this movie is ungodfully slow-paced. I haven't grown this impatient with a movie in a long time. On top of that, none of the characters are particularly likable, and the main plotline just isn't interesting. Number 33 is going to be Tron: Ares. There's some good action and some good performances and some interesting ideas. However, the themes and character arcs feel very surface level and it doesn't really dive deeply into any of the themes it's trying to explore. Wicked for Good was a massive step down from Wicked 1. While I still enjoy the performances and the production design, the plot jerks around way too much and the pacing is way too slow. Looking back, Wicked probably just should have been one movie instead of two. Hamnet features some excellent acting and production design, and I love the feel and the aesthetic of the movie. I also think that the first half of the movie, where it's mostly about the love story between Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley, was really good. However, I thought that the exploration of grief was very surface level and that the ending really petered out. I found the chunk of the movie that's the love story to be way more interesting than the chunk of the movie about grief. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but it's one I'll stick to. Frankenstein was a decent adaptation. I thought the performances were really good and the atmosphere was excellent. And of course, the production design is on point. Del Toro made a choice to kind of streamline the story to make it more easy to process. However, I do wish that the emotional core was stronger, and I just had a hard time getting invested in this iteration of Victor Frankenstein. I love Oscar Isaac, he's a great actor, but something about his take on the character of Victor Frankenstein just wasn't interesting to me. While The Smashing Machine looks great and does prove that Dwayne Johnson does have some acting chops, the plot and the character arcs have no direction. The movie is just a series of scenes with no sense of causality or purpose. Train Dreams had some great atmosphere and some great quiet, subtle filmmaking. It does a great job reflecting on the changes that America went through in the early to mid 1900s by examining the life of its protagonist. However, it does fall into some prestige drama pitfalls that keep it from having any strong emotional resonance. Number 27 is John Candy, I Like Me. This movie was an excellent delve into Candy's life and his reputation. It does a great job showing who he was and why he was so loved. However, this movie just didn't resonate with me as much as it did with some other people. No Other Choice did a great job examining modern Korean culture and exploring a lot of interesting ideas related to workplace culture and institutional knowledge. However, there were a few unnecessary subplots and the runtime is a bit too long. I also thought the main character's arc was a little bit rushed. While Thunderbolts certainly had its issues, it was definitely Marvel taking a step in the right direction. There are some good character arcs, an interesting central theme, and some really good action. However, I just don't think that the movie packed the emotional punch that it could have, and there were some very awkwardly executed plot beats. Warfare was a much better experience than it was story. The movie does a great job putting you in the mindset of US soldiers in Iraq. The acting is great, the editing is suspenseful, and the direction is superb. However, I do feel like the ending fell a little bit flat. Bring Her Back was an excellently made movie. The performances and the direction are great, and it has a great atmosphere. However, the movie's plot lost me about halfway through, and I thought the middle chunk was a little bit confusing. Number 22, Fantastic Four: First Steps. This movie was a great way to reboot the Fantastic Four. I love the production design and the aesthetic, and the cast has great chemistry. However, the conflict does feel a little bit underdeveloped, and some of the character arcs feel shallow. Number 21 is going to be Sentimental Value. This was a movie that I appreciated a lot more than I liked. The performances, especially the four leads, are fantastic. All four of them deserve their Oscar nominations. I also love the core idea of using the creative process to work through trauma and pain. However, I wish some of the character arcs were a bit better defined, especially the protagonists. And I also think there were some subplots that weren't given the resolution that they could have. I will also give this movie the award for being the movie that I could see myself most enjoying upon a second watch. If I ever get a chance to rewatch this movie, I could see myself enjoying it a lot more. Bringing us into the top 20 is going to be Novocaine. This is just the perfect fun action comedy with just such a cool, unique premise. I love Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder, and I love the creative set pieces. This movie is just the perfect version of itself. It has a really inventive premise and it executes it perfectly. Together had a great concept and an excellent sense of mystery and tension. The leads have really good chemistry, as you would expect, and their dynamic is interesting. However, I wish that the lore was a bit more defined, and I wish that the ending came to a bit more of a thematic resolution. The Accountant 2 was a worthy follow-up. Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal have great chemistry, and the plot keeps throwing good, unpredictable twists at you. The action is great, and the characters are a ton of fun. I just think I slightly prefer the original Accountant. K-Pop Demon Hunters is just the perfect version of itself. It has great music, great animation, good characters, and really cool lore. The only thing that holds it back for me is that the story is a little bit shallow. It is just kind of a standard good versus evil story. That being said, I am still really looking forward to the sequel. Superman was a movie that really got the character of Superman right. It does a great job showing his earnestness and his sincerity without being too corny. However, I thought that the movie was just a little bit too fantastical at times. While I like the fact that this movie kind of throws the audience on board a universe that's already going, I thought that the fantastical elements ended up removing some of the tension. And I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but I thought the dog was used way too much. Bringing us into the top 15 is Companion. What a great psychological thriller this movie was. It does a great job keeping you on your toes and adding a new twist every 15 or 20 minutes. I also love the performances. I think that Jack Quaid does a great job playing against type. However, I do wish that the social commentary was a little bit more nuanced. Number 14 was Begonia. This movie was an interesting examination of radicalization and corporatization in modern America. I love the performances and the characters are really layered. However, I think the themes are a bit contradictory and the editing feels muddled. At number 13 is going to be Bone Lake. This movie has a brilliant concept that it executes very well. The actors are great and the movie does a great job building tension. However, I do wish that the themes were a little bit better defined. Number 12, Avatar Fire and Ash. This movie delivers the Avatar experience. It's an epic, sweeping, grand, cinematic journey with some really cool lore and some cool filmmaking. However, it does retread some of the same plot beats from the previous Avatar movies, and some of the character arcs fall a little bit flat. David was the best Christian movie I've seen in a long time. The characters are layered and deep, the plot has a good sense of forwardness and direction, and the songs are really catchy and fun, and I'm really looking forward to more Angel Studios movies like this. Alrighty, we've made it this far, and now it's time to get into the top 10, my top 10 favorite movies of 2025. Bringing us into the top 10, The Housemaid. This movie was a great throwback to erotic thrillers from the 90s. The cast is great, and there's a nice growing sense of tension and mystery, and I love how the plot keeps throwing new twists at you every couple scenes, and this movie crescendos perfectly as all the different plot threads and character arcs culminate into a perfect ending. This is, I think, the best movie that Paul Feig has made in a long time. Number 9, Wake Up Dead Man. This movie explores a lot of great themes and ideas, and as per usual, it provides a very interesting mystery and a really good performance from Daniel Craig. The thing that holds it back a bit is that the ensemble of characters wasn't as memorable as the previous Benoit Blanc movies, and I felt like the reveals fell a little bit flat. At number 8, Roofman. This movie was a ton of fun. Channing Tatum is just so effortlessly fun and likable, and him and Dunst have great chemistry. On top of that, this movie just has so much energy and liveliness that it's probably the most fun movie I saw last year. If I had to throw one criticism at it, I do wish that the main character had a bit more of a well-defined character arc. However, I also understand that because this movie's based on a true story, it has to kind of conform to the events of reality. At number 7, Marty Supreme. This movie was the perfect Safdie experience. It follows a despicable but fascinating character as he digs himself into a deeper and deeper hole of self-destruction in his quest for success. The filmmaking is suspenseful and captivating, and Chalamet again proves he's a generational talent. Overall, everyone involved in this movie has a bright career ahead of them. Number 6, One Battle After Another. This movie is such an interesting blend of action thriller, political drama, western epic, and more. It does a great job communicating tons of information in a relatively short amount of time. The characters, especially Lockjaw, are really rich and layered, and it features some of the best performances of the year. However, I do wish that this movie examined the motives of its protagonists more. Their goals aren't really very well defined, and their ethical codes seem contradictory. I also take an issue with how the film portrays violence. It doesn't really glorify violence, but it doesn't really condemn it either. However, despite those issues, this movie is just so well made on a filmmaking level that I'm able to kind of look past some of those problems. Bringing us into the top 5, The Long Walk. This movie was an excellent character study mixed with teenage dystopia. The characters are rich and layered, and the relationships that they form are so complex and genuine. The movie does a great job making you feel invested in the friendship between the leads. However, I do wish that the larger universe that the movie takes place in was explored a little bit more. Number 4, Christie. This movie is an excellent sports biopic. It does a great job making you invested in the character of Christy Martin and examining her tumultuous relationship with her trainer. While Sydney Sweeney is pretty good, Ben Foster gives a triumphant performance and completely disappears into his role. This movie does a great job kind of slowly building tension until it reaches a boiling point. Overall, this movie is one of the best sports biopics we've gotten in a while, and I do wish more people were talking about this movie. Bringing us into the top 3, F1. F1 was just the perfect dad movie. The performances are great, the characters have great chemistry, and the racing scenes are so visceral and cinematic. It's an excellent throwback to old school blockbusters with a ton of heart and the perfect mix of popcorn entertainment and emotional beats. Our runner-up, Weapons. This movie was a great sophomore effort from Zach Kreger. The movie has a great central premise and does a great job slowly revealing details until the mystery is fully uncovered. I love the way that the movie follows characters one at a time and uses each character to explore the central theme. The movie also does a great job balancing horror with comedy and blending different types of horror. Overall, I can't wait to see what Zach Cregger does next. However, my number one, my favorite movie of 2025, like a lot of other people's, is gonna be Sinners. I understand that it's gonna be cliche to have this movie as my number one, but it is genuinely that good. For one, it's genuinely original. It's a musical Southern period piece drama with vampires. Second, it uses so many complex metaphors and so many interesting ideas. And lastly, it is a genuinely fun action horror film that casual moviegoers can enjoy. So while Sinners may be a common pick for the best of the year, it deserves a lot of the accolades it's getting, and I do kinda wish that this movie won Best Picture, even though I did like One Battle After Another. So that's it. That's my ranking of every movie I saw in 2025. What were your favorite and least favorite movies of 2025? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more end of the year 2025 lists, click this playlist right here. And as per usual, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.